Hey, what's going on? It's Ryan, and I am joined today by Kevin Bruner, founder and CTO of Telltale Games. Kevin, how you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Now you are you're basically an adventure game company. This is what you guys do. Can you give kind of a little bit of background for people who aren't familiar with Telltale, kind of how you got started and what the roots of this company are?
I'd say about half of us here now worked at LucasArts back in the heyday. We have people who worked on all the Monkey Island games, Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, all the classic Scum games. So we have a lot of heritage from those type of games. Plus, we've worked, working at Lucas, you make a lot of Star Wars games, a lot of Indiana Jones games. So we have a lot of love for licensed stuff as well.
It seems to make sense for Telltale and for kind of this adventure game format, despite it being a bit of a throwback to kind of move forward. And it seems like that's something that you're doing with Wallace and Gromit, which kind of first time for you guys is giving you direct control as opposed to kind of the point and click that's been traditionally associated with this style of game. How has that changed the design process of this?
It's been very liberating. The one thing, we've made pretty traditional point and click games, kind of 3D point and click games, but we really look at that as a starting point to grow from and find our own voice. So Wallace and Gromit, we did a couple of major things. Direct control is a big one. This is the first game we've made where you can actually drive the characters around.
Right.
And that's freed up artistically us a lot from a composition point of view. We can do camera angles and use the visuals to tell stories in ways that we couldn't with the point and click interface. One of the other things is this game has a whole new dialogue system. You don't select dialogue by picking choices on the screen. It works by picking objects in the world. So I think it's been a huge leap forward from an interface for us and helping us kind of establish our own voice and break away from Scum style games, which we all love, but we really think that there's a lot of opportunity to evolve.
Aside from kind of the direct control stuff, like how else do you see Telltale trying to expand the audience for this style of game?
We have some other things in development that are more experimental, but we are really trying to push the boundaries of interactive storytelling and interactive characters you love, the whole coming back to the world every month. So that's really the core. Adventure gaming is a great way to experience that, but we're also looking at different game mechanics to offer the same kind of thing. So it starts to blur the line. Is it an adventure game? Is it a strategy game? Is it an RPG? Or is it just this really great world with these really interesting characters full of great writing that you keep diving into? And that's really kind of where we want to go is right now Telltale makes adventure games, but I think we're going to start pushing the boundaries and eventually people will just say we kind of make Telltale games, which maybe don't fit into the traditional buckets as well. It's another thing that's really nice about being an episodic game company is since you spend less time clock hours kind of making the game, since the games are just smaller,
right.
We have little gaps in between that we can take some of the design people and say, every couple of months we'll give you a month to say, just dream of something interesting. And we've got some of that stuff going on right now. So we play around a lot with AI, with artistic presentation, things like that. So we're constantly experimenting. It's another one of those intrinsic things that drove us to episodic was you get to iterate faster. When you're only spending a couple of months making games, you get to make a lot more decisions than you do if you're spending 3 years making a game.
Let's wrap this up with talk a little more specifically about Wallace and Gromit. How many episodes are there going to be in this cycle?
So for Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventures,
yes.
There'll be 4 episodes, and they're a little bit bigger than episodes that we've done before. They're a little more like the Aardman shorts. So the shorts are kind of beefier, short movies, half hour, 45-minute shorts. So these particular episodes will be a little bit longer than like the Strong Bad episodes.
So fewer episodes, but longer episodes. So it sounds like that kind of balances out.
Yeah. About the same probably clock hours for the whole thing as we've always done.
Well, sir, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And that's going to do it here. You can learn more about Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventure on giantbomb.com. And we are back here at Telltale Games talking to Andy Hartzell. You're
Hi.
Andy, you're a designer here. You're the lead designer on the first episode of Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventure.
That's right. It's a 4-episode series, and I am lead designer on the first and the fourth.
For me, has definitely always been, one of the big kind of defining characteristics of Telltale Games has been their sense of humor, which I think is really special in the video game space because it seems really hard to make a video game, like to get comic timing in a video game and have it work. In your experience, how has this really differed from other mediums, and what do you feel it is that you need to make humor work in a video game?
Having spent a lot of time before coming to this job by myself, doing cartooning, where the timing, the kind of control of the timing, the control of everything is in my hands. This job is much more about everyone working together as a team.
So much of comedy and of humor for that stuff to work is, timing. It's a beat that holds a little too long.
Yeah.
And, not knowing necessarily how that's going to play until the game's all wrapped up, until all the pieces kind of fit together. Like how do you cope with that? That seems like that would be like just nerve-wracking as all hell.
It's nice in a more plastic medium like computer animation as opposed to cell animation.
Right.
You have a little more control over. Okay, let's add a little. Let's add a beat here. Let's slow that down. Let's change the staging slightly, and there is that opportunity to fine-tune those moments later in the process.
You've done some original stuff in the past, but you're working with Aardman here on the Wallace and Gromit stuff. How has that experience been, kind of, working with someone else's creation and trying to honor that while at the same time creating something new?
We have been fortunate enough to work with an editor in England named Tristan Davies, who was sort of assigned to our case by Nick Park. Tristan has worked with Nick Park, the creator of Wallace and Gromit, over the course of years, and has created some Wallace and Gromit comics, Wallace and Gromit audiobooks, and other projects, and has a kind of a very bone-deep understanding of what they would or would not do in a particular situation. So we went through a period where we would be, on a daily basis, we would be pitching these story ideas and synopses to Tristan, and then we'd have an hour or two conversation with him where he'd say, "Oh, I don't know if that's quite comfortable." And he'd say, "I don't know, how would Wallace react under those circumstances? Well, I suppose he'd just say, let's have some cheese, Gromit."
Did you ever mine any direct dialogue out of these conversations? Was there?
Yeah, and he also did sort of act as an editor and did do to sort of polish passes on the scripts, and where our slang was slightly off, he would tune it up, or he would suggest certain figures of speech and rewording lines and that sort of thing. So he kind of stuck with us throughout the process.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
And that's going to do it once again for us here at Telltale Games. As always, you can learn more about Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventure at giantbomb.com.